the origin of suffering, it is that craving which gives rise to further rebirth and bound up with pleasure and lust, finds ever fresh delight, now here, now there, to wit, the sensual craving, the craving for existence, and the craving
Recording in progress.
for non-existence. So the first noble truth, birth is suffering, decay is suffering, death is suffering, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and excessive despair are suffering. Association with the dislike is suffering, separation from the like is suffering, not to get what one wishes, that also is suffering. And finally, Buddha said, in brief, only one sentence, the five aggregates of clinging are suffering, all nama-rupa of suffering, all five aggregates of clinging, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching are suffering. And then Buddha continued the second noble truth. The second noble truth is noble truth of the origin of suffering. It is why there is suffering, why there are celestial beings, why there are human beings, why there are various kinds of animals, why there are all these beings, why there is rebirth, why there is aging, why there is death, why there is lamentation, etc. Why? And then Buddha continued, the second noble truth is the noble truth of the origin of suffering. The cause of suffering, the origin of suffering is hunger or thirst. It is hunger or thirst or craving which give rise to fresh rebirth, and it is bound up with pleasure and attachment, and it seeks delight and finds gratification now here, now there. What is the craving? So Buddha mentioned the craving has three kinds. Kamatana, craving for sense objects. Bhavatana, craving accompanied by eternalist view. And Vibhavatana, craving accompanied by annihilationist view. So Buddha clearly mentioned the cause of suffering is thirst, or in Pali, tanha. Thirst here means craving or attachment. Craving is the cause of dukkha. Attachment is the cause of suffering. And Buddha described it as that which gives rise to fresh rebirth, as that which causes rebirth. This craving causes rebirth, and when there comes rebirth, we have aging, sickness, death, lamentation, sorrow, various kinds of suffering follow. So long as there is craving, so long as there is attachment, there will always be rebirth in the future. There will always be suffering in the future. The second noble truth is actually not easy to see. Actually, we do not see that craving is a cause of rebirth. Why we do not see that craving is a cause of rebirth? That is because we do not possess the knowledge which Buddha possessed. So we take it on faith what the Buddha said, that craving is a cause of suffering and craving is a cause of rebirth. And we have no way of knowing that craving causes rebirth. That means we do not have undeniable proof. If you cannot remember your past life, you may or you may not accept that there is multiplicity of lives. If you remember your past life, then nobody or nothing can prevent you from accepting that. But on faith, at least we accept that there is multiplicity of lives, many lives. Also, we accept that life everywhere is suffering. And we accept that this life or this suffering is caused by craving or attachment. And there are three kinds of craving. The first is kamatana, craving for sense objects, craving for things we see, or craving for things we experience in the world. This craving has the ability to produce results in the future. When we approach death, when we are dying, some karma we did in the past, or sometimes karma nimitta, signs of karma, an instrument we did in performing the karma. Or sometimes gati nimitta, signs of destiny, signs of our next life appear to our mind. If one of those appears to our mind, then our mind grabs at those objects. When there is grasping, there is craving. And so with this craving, we die. As a result of the craving, there is a rebirth and there is a resultant consciousness which arises in the next life. So when there is craving, there is rebirth. So the first is the craving for sense objects. And the second is the craving accompanied by eternalist view, bhavatana. There are people who believe that there is something like a soul in us. There is something like permanent entity. Although our bodies will disintegrate when we die, the soul is permanent, and so the soul will go to another body and another body, just like a bird goes from one tree to another. So the craving accompanied by that kinds of belief is called craving accompanied by eternalist view. In Pali, it is Sayadaw deity. So that is the second kinds of craving, bhavatana. And the last one is vibhavatana. There are some people who believe that there is no life in the past, there is no life in the future. They believe this is the only life that we have. At the end of this life, everything will be annihilated. Nothing will come out of this life. No rebirth or whatever. Craving accompanying that view is called craving accompanied by annihilationist view. In Pali, Ojeda Deti. So this is that kinds of craving. The craving will also cause a rebirth. Although these people don't believe in rebirth, they believe in this present life. So they are attached to this present life, and they are attached to the objects in this life, or they are attached to the pleasant objects in this life. So they will want to enjoy the pleasure in this present life as much as they can. And they have a strong desire, they have strong craving for the things in this life. This strong craving will definitely cause their rebirth, whether they believe in rebirth or not, whether they want to be reborn or not. So now three kinds of craving, any kinds of craving, whether the craving for sense objects, kamatana, or the craving accompanied by eternity view, bhavatana, and craving accompanied by annihilationist view, vibhavatana. All these craving will produce rebirth in the future. So Buddha described it as craving which gives rise to fresh rebirth. So this craving is said to be the origin of suffering, the cause of suffering, which is the noble truth, first noble truth. Now you understand two noble truths. The first noble truth is the noble truth of suffering. The second is the cause of suffering, which is craving, which is thirst, which is attachment. Actually, when we say craving is a second noble truth, we also mean ignorance, avijja. There is because ignorance, avijja, always accompanies craving, tanha. If there is no ignorance, there can be no craving. We are ignorant of the true nature of mind and matter, so we tend to be attached to things. We tend to attach to persons. If there were no ignorance and we were to see these namarupa, mind and matter, as they really are, we would not be attached to anything. So when we say the second noble truth is craving, we mean craving along with ignorance, craving along with delusion. So vijja internal, delusion or ignorance and craving are those that create these rounds of rebirth, rounds of samsara, rounds of suffering. So yayantana pono bhavika nandi raga sagata tatara binandini. Tatara binandini. Tana finds pleasure here, there, in every existence. Craving ever finds fresh delight. So regarding this, we listen the story of Queen Upri. At one time, Queen Upri was the chief queen of King Asaka, who ruled over the country of Kasi at its capital, Patali in India. So Queen Upri was said to be of great beauty. Ancient kings used to select the most attractive maidens of their kingdom to become their queens. Consequently, all their queens were noted for their charm and loveliness. Queen Upri was outstanding amongst them because of her raving beauty and enchantment. Bewitched by her alluring comeliness, King Asaka had lost his heart to, uh, to his Queen Upri. Much adored by the monarch, and while still in the prime of her beauty and charm, death came. We don't know when we die. Queen Upri went to the god's abode. Now you need to know that usage of the term go to the abode of the celestial beings. It's a cultural usage to mean the death of a royal family. In cultural usage, cultural term, the death of the royal family means death. In the same way, flying back means passing away of a Buddhist monk, a mere cultural term, cultural usage. When the monk pass away, they use the monk flying back. A dead person finds rebirth in an existence as conditioned by his or her karma, the previous volitional activities. As it happened, Queen Upri, in spite of the saying according to the cultural usage that she had gone to the celestial abode, God's abode, actually she was reborn as a lowly beetle, not not celestial realms. She was reborn as a lowly beetle. With the passing away of his adult queen Upri, King Aska was consumed by fiercely burning fires of sorrow and lamentation. So he caused the corpse of the queen embalmed in oil to be placed in a glass coffin and kept underneath his bedstead. So he was overwhelmed by grief, and the king laid on the bed without food and sleep, wailing, mourning over the loss of his beloved queen Upri. The royal relatives and his wise ministers tried to console him and give him solace by reminding him of the nature of impermanence and conditionality of existence, all to no avail. So the corpse in the coffin was embalmed in oil. The corpse would remain well preserved, just like being treated with chemical preservatives of uh, modern times. So the Queen Upri would therefore appear to the king as if she was lying, sleeping in the coffin. The sights of the corpse act like fuel to his burning sorrow and lamentation that continued to consume him for 7 days. At the time, our Bodhisattva was a hermit endowed with abhanya, supernormal jhanic power, and Bodhisattva hermit lived in the forest of the Himalayas. So the Bodhisattva happened to scan the whole world using his abhanya and saw King Asaka in the throes of intense sorrow. So Hamid knew also that no one could save the king from his misery. Then he made his way to the royal garden of King Asaka by means of his jhanic powers. And there a young Brahmin came to meet the hermit. The young Brahmin asked the hermit about King Asaka, and the young man told him how the king was overwhelmed by grief and requested him to save the king. And the hermit said, "We do not know the king, but if he came and asked us, we could tell him about his wife's present existence." The hermit replied. Thereupon the young man went to the king and said to the king, "Great sir, a hermit endowed with celestial eyes and celestial ears has arrived in the royal garden. That hermit claims he could show the present existence of your departed queen. It would be worthwhile to go and see that hermit." The young man said to the king. Upon hearing this, the king immediately took off for the royal garden in a carriage. On arrival, the king paid respectful homage to the hermit and addressed him, "Reverend sir, it is true that you claim to know the present existence of my queen Upri?" The king asked. The hermit admitted, "Yes, I know the present existence of your queen Upri." Then the king wanted to know where she was reborn. The hermit replied, "O great king, your queen Upri took delight in her beauteous appearance, was very proud about her beauty, very vain about it, and she has spent her time engaged only in beautifying herself to make herself more alluringly attractive. Your queen Upri forgot all the while to perform meritorious deeds. She forgot to give alms and observe moral precepts. As a result, Queen Upri has passed over a lowly existence. She is presently reborn as a female countdown beetle in this very garden. So the hermit told the whole story very frankly. Yeah, you can look at the world. Some people favored by fortune, they enjoy the privilege of wealth, they very rich, they enjoy privilege of family, education, rank, physical beauty, etc., are prone to exhibit arrogance, haughtiness in their dealings with others. Shrouded in their own vanity and self-esteem, they become neglectful in their performance of meritorious deeds. Humility plays no part in their life, and Buddha taught in the Chulagama Vibhinga Sutta that such vain, arrogant, glorious, haughty person are liable to land up in lowly, inferior rebirths. On the other hand, unpretentious, humble person who show humility and pay reverential respects to those deserving of homage will be reborn in noble families. Now, Queen Ubri was extremely beautiful, and she was the chief queen of the ruling monarch. She was of very high status in life. So she had her head turned by these preeminent qualities and looked down with attempt on those she should have shown her respects. So for such unwholesome attitudes and action, it may be presumed she was reborn a lowly female Countdown beetle. On hearing this account of the rebirth of his beloved Queen Upri, King Asaka quickly rejected. The king said, I don't believe it. And the hermit replied, I can show you the female beetle and make her talk too. And the king agreed, all right, please do. You can show me female beetle and make her talk. And the hermit, using his supernatural powers or abhanyas, made a vow for both the male and female beetles to make their appearance before the king. When the male and female beetles emerged from the heap of countdown into the presence of the king, the hermit said, O king, the female beetle, which is following from behind, was your chief queen, Upri Devi. Having abandoned you, she is now trailing the male countdown beetle wherever it goes. O king, have a good look at the female beetle who was lately your chief queen, Upri. Hermit said to the king. And the king refused to believe the hermit. I can believe it. I can believe that such an intelligence being as my queen Upri was reborn as this female beetle. The king said. True, some people do not quite believe in the laws of karma. They do not believe the law of karma and its resultant effect. So they do not understand the principle of conditionality. They do not understand the causal relationship as explained in Paticca Samuppada, dependent origination. It would be difficult to accept that being of the human world should have gone down so low as to become a mere beetle. Even in those days, in these days of teaching of the Buddha, the Buddha teaching are widely prevalent. There are some people holding the view that when man dies, he cannot go down to inferior existence. So they believe in this way. So it is not surprising that during the dark ages, when the Buddha teaching was yet unheard of, such story of rebirth human beings reborn as a countdown beetle were received with skepticism. They don't believe. Nevertheless, according to the teaching of the Buddha, for so long as we have not yet attained the status of Arya, Noble One, we can go down from the human world or the celestial realms into the four lower states of existence. And conditioned by bad karma and mental reflection just before death, rebirth may take place in the lower order of beings. On the other hand, conditioned by good karma and wholesome mental attitude on the threshold of death, he may be reborn from an inferior sphere of existence into the higher realms of human and celestial beings. There is the story of a bhikkhu, Reverend Tessa. He developed attachment to his robe when he was about to die, and as a consequence, Reverend Tessa was reborn a body loss, making his home on those very ropes. And there is another story of a frog. That frog met its death while listening to a discourse by the Buddha. So that frog became a celestial being in Tawadensa celestial abode. So these are examples which serve as evidence of various transformations at the time of rebirth. However, King Asaka, not having heard of such discourses, could not accept that his queen Ubri had become a female beetle. He did not believe, he did not accept. Accordingly, he refused to believe it. So the hermit proposed that he would make the female beetle talk. The king accepted the proposal. Thereupon the hermit made the vow, using his supernatural powers, to have the conversation between him and the female beetle, comprehensible to the king and his audience. The hermit asked, "Who are you in your past life?" The hermit asked to the female beetle. Female beetle replied, "I was the chief queen Upri of King Asaka." The female beetle replied. The hermit asked, "What now, female beetle? Do you still love your King Asaka, or do you love only this countdown beetle?" To which the female beetle replied, "True, King Asaka was my husband in my past life. At that time, we used to roam about in this garden in the company of King Asaka. We enjoyed the five sense pleasures of sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. But now that I'm in the new existence, I have nothing to do with King Asaka. And the commentarial version of the female Buddha's reply is like this. In my present existence, I could relish killing King Asaka and with the blood from his throat wash the feet of the condemned beadle, who is my present beloved husband. So the commentarial exposition makes the beadle's reply sound very harsh and unfeeling. But the female beetle was talking in the presence of her dear husband. The male beetle, it is natural that she wanted to please male beetle. So we can easily see in everyday life many conspicuous examples of divorce, estrangement between ex-husband and wives who get separated not through death but in this very life on grounds of conflict or on grounds of incompatibility. An example of loving tenderness heaped on their new partners in life. The remarks of the commentary appears to be quite in order. So the Jataka Pali text describes the female Buddha's reply in this way. Reverend Sir, I, who had loved the King Aska, had roamed about in the garden many a times, together with King Aska, who had loved me and who was my beloved husband. Then we enjoy each other's company. But now the joys and troubles of the present new life have obscured, covered up the joys and trouble of the old life. The new joys and troubles have transcended the old joys and troubles. I love my present husband. I love my male Count Beetle more than I did King Asaka. So the commentary exposition of the words love more than makes interesting reading. It say love more than means love 100 times more, love 1,000 times more than I did King Asaka. That indicates the intensity of love in favor of the new husband. Now King Asaka was greatly distressed to hear the harsh, unfeeling words of estrangement from the lips of the female beetle. He thought to himself, I had loved and adored her so much, I could not throw away her dead body. Yet she had become so antipathetic and nasty to me. So the king felt so disgusted with his old Queen Ubri that he ordered, even while sitting there, go and have the woman's body removed. Throw away that body, he ordered. Then having bathed and washed himself, the king went back to his palace, and he made another court lady his chief queen, and carry on ruling over the country wisely. Now the hermit Bodhisattva gave good advice to the king, and then he went back to the Himalayan sanctuary. Now from this story, what you understand from the moral form of this story is that Queen Upri, while in the human world, she had taken delight in being a human person. Tanna, craving or attachment to be a human beings, human person, and the queen at that. And she would never have even dreamt of being reborn a female beetle, but accordance with her past karma, when she was reborn a female beetle, she at once took to the life and delight in the physical body of a female. So she esteemed and adored the physical body of the female, physical body of the male beetle 100 times, 1,000 times more than the of King Asaka. So she felt quite at home in her lowly existence as a countdown beetle is due to tanna, craving, which finds delight everywhere. That is why Buddha said, Ya yantana ponobhavika, nandiraga sagata tatra tatra bing nandini. Tanna, craving, has the tendency to delight wherever it finds rebirth. Reborn as a dog, it takes delight in the dog's existence. Reborn as a pig, as a fowl. And there is always delight in each existence. Even having been born as children of affluent parents of upper social class, there are cases of them sinking down to poverty-stricken existence, yet enjoying their lives they are in. They are finding their new life quite enjoyable. So it is tanha, it is craving, which is giving them pleasure wherever they are, delighting in whatever sense objects presents itself. So this is the tanha, which gives rise to fresh rebirth, bound up with lust and greed. Now here, now there, ever finds fresh delight. So that is the end of story. From this story, we can get the power of tanha, craving. And now yogis are practicing meditation to get rid of tanha, the cause of craving. Every object coming to you and you try to observe, you to find the true fact, to find the reality as they really are. And when you see the reality, when you see the true nature of that kinds of phenomena, you can get rid of tanha, craving, and you will understand the true nature of suffering, you can get rid of the craving, and then you will realize the cessation of suffering. So we will continue many stories regarding Tanna. We will continue tomorrow. We have to stop our discourse for today. By practicing Vipassana meditation, by observing every phenomena occurring at the six senses, may you all yogis understand the truth of suffering. May you all get rid of the cause of suffering. May you realize the cessation of suffering. May you develop the path leading to the cessation of suffering. May you realize the real peace in a very near future. So